Hello everyone and welcome to Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. Now today what we are going to do is to run the armed convoy attack scenario. This is a scenario that seems that some people are having some trouble with. I don't know exactly. I think it's all due to the fact that it's a time limited scenario. It's only 1 hour long and there are a lot of ships present. Now in this scenario you can build battle cruisers, heavy cruisers or light cruisers. I've seen yeah, well, a way to beat this scenario is to build a lot of light cruisers with no armor, very slow, and with very big guns. You can get maybe 10 of those, and yeah, well, that seems to work for this scenario. But I'm of the opinion that if you are going to play these scenarios, the Naval Academy in this game, you could as well learn a little bit about what can work or not work in naval design for the time the campaign mode is released. And let's face it, if in the campaign mode you start building light cruisers with no armor and 8-inch guns, yeah, it's not going to be good. You want to build ships that actually are useful, and those really are not. They are useful for this particular scenario, and it's actually, I really encourage you to try different scenarios in this game with different approaches and different attempts to solve the challenge of each scenario. Not with the idea of beating it, at least not after you have already won a given scenario, but just to experiment what works, what doesn't, what works better, what doesn't work as well. So in that sense, that solution, the lots of light cruisers with big guns, works for this scenario. It won't for a campaign though, but it teaches you that, yeah, there's a strength in numbers. Indeed. At any rate, what we are going to do today is not that. What we are going to do is to build a battle cruiser and how to build it to properly win the scenario. Because of course, well, in order to experiment, it's nice to have won the scenario before, right? First you want to win the scenario, then you want to try it again with different solutions and see if they work or not. So we are going to go for a good solution for this scenario, which is still credible enough that you can build it later on a campaign. So let's go ahead. As you can see, you have 3 different choices. I say 3 because most fans really, I don't think, unless you are going for the lots of cruisers approach, yeah, you don't need that extra money. It's plus $3 million dollars for your funds, but you are not getting any extra tax. And the limiting factor in this scenario actually is weight. Is how big your ship is. It's not cost. So we have choices between guns and fire control, cells and torpedoes, survivability and maneuverability. Now, what we are going to face in this scenario are a couple of pre-dreadnoughts, 1 armored cruiser, 2 light cruisers, and the transports. The enemy warships are all of very old technology compared with you. Very bad flight control systems. They are really below you in quality terms. So what you want to do is to emphasize that quality in order to beat them faster, because you have a very limited time frame to beat this scenario. So in contrast with the last video, Sink the Raiders, where we didn't really care about hit chances or volume of fire, because the idea was eventually we will hit, and when we hit it will hurt, and we have a lot of time to beat this, so no big deal. Well, we don't have that time frame in this scenario. We need to be fast, we need to be quick. So in order to do that, we want the best techs to assist us in doing so. And for this scenario, I think the best one is guns and fire control. Particularly so the fire control. The idea is that you really want to beat the heck out of the enemies with as many hits as you can, so they stop being combat effective. You don't necessarily have to sink them all, but you need to really kick them out of the battle in effective terms. So damage them so much that they can't really hurt you back, right? Cells and torpedoes is not a bad solution, especially if you go for cruisers, which is another way to beat the scenario, but I'm going to go in this one with a battle cruiser. Survivability and maneuverability, I don't really think they are so good for this scenario for the reason I told you. Here the problem is not surviving, the problem is killing the enemy fast enough, and for that survivability and maneuverability really don't do much. Guns and fire control is the best one. They give you better access to better guns, and particularly so better hit chances, which is what, if you are bringing a battle cruiser, really matters in this scenario. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the design that we will go with. Okay, here we are, and here is the design I came with. Now you will notice that this is a battlecruiser 1 hull, which has very big inns in the hull here and here, so you can mount wing turrets. I'm not going with wing turrets. Wing turrets are nice if you can't go for anything else, or if you are limited in the size of your turrets that you have to use twin guns mounts. We can go with triple, so really wing turrets are not needed. Besides, wing turrets come at a penalty. If you put a lot of mass off to your wings, you will get a much worse roll statistic. And you see that roll affects accuracy. We have currently a minus 4% accuracy bonus. If you put a lot of weight out of the wings, that's going to go up, and you are going to get a severe hit to your hit chances. You will notice as well that I have taken a lot of care to balance this ship very well. The better balance it is, the better hit chances you get, because you will get more reliable gunnery out of it. So yeah, we went with 3 main turrets, triples, 1 forward, 2 back. The only reason 1 forward is because we don't have the space to mount 2 of them. We could, in theory, but one of the turrets should be so far forward that it would unbalance the ship a little bit, so I didn't go with that. And they are 12-inch guns with heavy projectiles, so they are going to hurt a lot. But particularly so, what we want here is the accuracy. You will note that the accuracy numbers are pretty high compared with what we were using in the last video. And particularly so, we compare with the hit chances the enemy is going to have on us, because the fire control system is not really good. On that vein, we go with secondary guns, a lot of them, and you are going to see that they are not here for show. These things are actually, I'm going to say, probably my main offensive weapon in this scenario, particularly so against the cruisers and the transports. The big guns, well, they are going to obliterate anything they touch. That's why they are big guns. But I mean, with this secondary salon, we could deal with the cruisers, at least with the light cruisers. The armor cruiser maybe would take more time, but the big guns are there for the battleships mostly. This is also a pretty balanced approach. It's a pretty balanced design with decent. I mean, it's not very big, it's not very costly. This would make for a very good campaign warship, at least if you have triples, which honestly you usually don't. I haven't gone for a barbette back, because if you want, this is one of the limits of this designer. You can't put barbettes when you want, where you want. You have to put them on anchor points, and this one is too aft. If I wanted to go with a barbette here, I would have to put a turret here and another one back here, which is super far off, very far away from my main armored area, and also would unbalance the ship. So I went with this. It's a workable layout. I went with just 1 funnel, and that's because I don't have space for more. This is more than enough to give me a high enough engine efficiency. It's a tad on the low side. I'm going to have a little bit of trouble accelerating and decelerating, but it's good enough. The problem is, if I get this one destroyed, it's going to be a problem. I would like to be able to put more funnels, but this is the same problem as with the barbettes. You only can put the funnels on anchor points, and we don't have any other available. As for the rest, we went with 27.5 knots. That's more than enough, far more than enough for this scenario. Medium range, again, we want to make a credible design for the campaign, and in a campaign you are not going to make a ship this size if it can't reach beyond your coast, right? Bulkheads many. Ideally, I would want maximum, but I can't, because as you can see, weight is a limit for this design, not cost, but weight it is. Many is more than enough in this scenario. The enemy really has very poor fire control systems. They are not going to hit a lot, so this will do. Turbines, semi-oil, induced boilers, auxiliary 1, and shaft 1. Essentially the best you can get in these choices. Well, you could go with forced, but not need to. I could go with forced actually, but and get a little bit better on my engine efficiency. But again, yeah, the limit is the weight. So induce will have to do. Protection, best armor. This isn't a no-brainer. You always go with this. Only barbette 2 instead of barbette 3, which is the top option. Again, we are not expecting to be hit a lot. Also, we are a battle cruiser, so yeah, we can sacrifice some protection. This is more than enough for the scenario that we have in front of us. Anti-torpedo 2, double bottom, sorry, reinforced bullheads 1, and anti-float 2, best options, and Citadel 2, also best option. Again, the idea is we want good protection against random hits because we are not going to get steadily hit. Again, unlike in the last video, where we were expecting to be hit a lot, in this one, hits are going to be pretty random. So we want to protect against those, of course, but sacrificing a little bit is not the end of the world. Heavy sails, we want the guns to hit as hard as possible, and we have the ability to do so. White explosive powder. This is actually cool because in this one, again, I was restricted with weight and not cost. This is more expensive than ballistite, but saves weight. You can see minus 7.5% sail weight. This actually saves weight from our displacement. So I went with this one. Cordite, leadite, etc. I don't really like because look at that. I mean, anything that increases the ammo detonation chance is a huge risk. Basic turret turning. Well, I mean, it would be nice to have a better traverse, but you don't really need it for this scenario. Auto reloading, ultra important. And this is other of the main reasons why this particular scenario is, or this particular option is so good for this scenario for battle cruisers. With auto, you have a minus 35% gun reloading time, which means that we are firing more than twice per minute with each of the guns. We are not going to hit more times because we have higher accuracy. We are going to hit more across time because we are firing faster. And again, this scenario is all about being quick. No torpedoes, no need for. The best option is 18-inch, and yeah, it has very, very, very small range. Really, torpedoes in battleships make no sense once you begin having good fire control systems. Rangefinder is going to be a stereoscopic rangefinder 2, the best we can, with long range accuracy, because we are going to keep a range at the beginning of the battle. We are going to try to keep at a distance so the enemy can't hit us while we destroy them. Then afterwards, we move in. But we want our long range fire to be really accurate, and for that, stereoscopic is the best option. Armor is not a lot. We have a plus 84% because of the armor option, Group 2, but still is more than enough. With this armor, the only thing that's going to be really a threat for us is going to be the pre-Dreadnoughts main batteries. But again, they have awful fire control systems, so if they hit, they can hit, but it's going to be very, very sparingly. Meanwhile, this protects us against everything else. Any medium guns, any light guns is not going to be able to hit to penetrate this armor. So that's more than good enough. So yeah, well, now let's see what the AI throws against me and see how we do. Again, each time you run a scenario, the enemy changes, and the AI brings different designs. So we will see what we go against. Enemy Austro-Hungarian Empire. Okay, this usually are quite shitty designs, but whatever. And we are Italian Empire. Okay. Called Xi'an. You can see that I designed this ship for a test run with the Chinese fleet. Anyway, okay, first enemy is the cruiser, I think. Yep. So those are a lot of transports. We have the battleships behind. The closest one is the armor cruiser. So armor cruiser goes first. Hit chances, you can see 25% at this distance, which is 4.1 kilometers, which is actually pretty close. We're going to turn a little bit away, but we are already hitting. And you will notice that the bulk of our hits are the light guns. That's because our light guns are as accurate, and in fact they are more accurate than our main guns at medium and closer range. They not only fire much faster and quicker, but look at that, I have a 44% chance to hit, and that's each shell. So I'm going to shower this guy in 5-inch gunfire. Okay, floating, good. You can see how accurate our guns are compared with the last time we of the last video, because the last time we had crappy guns and crappy fire control systems. This time we have nice guns and very nice fire control systems. Okay, general strategy for this scenario. You can see that we have a very limited amount of time for so many enemy ships. We are completely... Wow. Okay. I really didn't ammo detonation, but I'm not going to complain. Yeah, general strategy. Your objective here is to destroy the transports, not the escorts. The escorts you don't need to sink. So the idea is, yes, work at the beginning, work on the escorts, on the big battleships and the cruisers, and try to sink them if you can. Which honestly, yeah, is not even a contest. We already have done it, and then work on just try to get them damage enough. If you can sink them, amazing. If you can't, because really time is running out and you seem not to be able to sink them, just at one point, around 20 minutes before the battle ends, just forget about them and rush the transport. The idea is that you have weakened the enemy enough and damaged it enough so they are not going to hit you back anyway. So the idea is fight off the warships until they are weak enough so they can't really stop you, and then move in and sink the transports. And it's as easy as that, and for that a battlecruiser is the best option. We have been hit by an 8-inch gun. As you can see, it didn't go in. Oh, mid-belt penetration, it did go in. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. Well, a good roll probably. Speaking about good rolls, what the hell is with me and ammo detonations in this scenario? Wow, holy crap. Not gonna complain, but really I wanted this to be a showcase of how to beat this scenario. If I'm ammo detonating everyone, is not going to even be a contest. This guy's going down. This guy is thinking, holy crap, man, that was quick. But yeah, you can see why this works. And why this is so effective, and why do you want to go with a battlecruiser for this scenario? To beat it. Later on, again, experiment all you want. Try different things, multiple ships, cruisers, maybe smaller battlecruisers, different options with the battlecruisers and cruisers. Experiment. Find out what works best, what's really great, and what might not be as good. But yeah, I mean, you can see that in order to beat this scenario, this is a pretty good option. Of course, I have been really lucky with my hits, but even so. Oh, look, we are fighting actually with our secondary guns. We are fighting at this light cruiser. That's great. Splitting of the batteries. That's amazing. The AI does it for you until you begin selecting targets. The problem is that you can't. Currently, of course, we are holy shit. Currently, we can't separate gunfire according to what we want. I can't choose a secondary target for my secondary guns, and that obviously needs to change. And this is going to change at some point in the future. But yeah, you can. I mean, we haven't even gotten an ID on this guy, and it's going down. Look at that bar. The blue bar is it's flooding status. It's at 50% already and going down. And seems to be going to go further down if we keep this up. So I'm going to switch my targets for the time being. Again, the idea is if you can sink them, sink them. If not, no need to. You have to weaken them enough. And I'm going to switch targets because I really want to know exactly what that kind of ship is this. So we'll ID it. And then we will switch back. Oh, we can look at the few bulkheads, and it broke in two. If you saw the screen, it broke in two. Okay, back to this guy. Again, few bulkheads. Okay, this is important. When you begin one of these scenarios, one of the first things you want to see and look is whether you can penetrate their armor or not, which is the little ship in the middle of the screen right now. When you put the cursor over the enemy, that pop-up comes up, and it shows your main gun's ability to penetrate the enemy. If it's all green, you are going to pen everywhere. So this guy we can pen everywhere except the main deck, which makes sense because we are at pretty close range. So the penetrations are not a thing. So the first thing you want to look at is that. The second thing is how many bullheads does he have? Because as if with max bullheads, it's really complicated to think. You can damage it a lot. You can basically soft kill it with so much damage that is never going to hit back. This guy, for instance, has already a 2.3% chance of hit back. Yeah, well, because of flooding and because it has fire control system, which is crap. But you can soft kill enemies, essentially rendering them useless for the remainder of the fight. But you are not going to sink them outright, because to sink them you need to float them, and maximum bullheads they divide the damage between the compartments really well. Meanwhile, few bullheads, well, a hit may cause flooding in two compartments. They spill over. It's much more complicated for them to. Oof. Okay, I'm going to slow down a little bit. We are going to increase our hit chances if we go at cruise speed. So yeah, you can see that I'm barely hit. I have only been hit once, and I'm completely destroying the enemy because of much better fire control systems. This is the kind of thing that you have to keep in mind when you are designing your warship. What's the likely enemy that you are going to find, and what's the enemy going to be like? If you know that the enemy doesn't have very good fire control systems, well, you can skip a little bit more on armor, right? We are coming at a pretty acute angle, 40 degrees. About 45 degrees or so, you might want to change for high explosive just to stave off ricochets. Not that is really needed, I mean. Yeah, we are totally massacring this guy. Also, you need to keep an eye on this guy doesn't have torpedoes, okay? This guy does have torpedoes. So we need to be aware of the range of this guy. He has 3 kilometers of range. So if he comes close, he's going to be a primary instantly. Okay, we're starting to get a little bit of ricochets. Now, another thing about enemies which are very badly damaged, like this one. If you find out that you are closing the range or closing the angle with an enemy, like this one, you can see that we are at 48 degrees of angle, and that the main belt currently is now on yellow because of the angle. That means that we are going to have more ricochets than usual. So at this point, maybe we want to change for high explosive. Why? Well, because high explosive, as we come closer and closer to his ends, the bow or the rear, shots are more likely to fall on the extremities. The extremities are less armor, and yeah, shots going high explosive really do a number of end parts of the enemy warships. Also, they provide for a much higher chance of getting some kind of flooding if they hit low enough, and they are not really affected by the angle, not as much as armor piercing at least. If I hit square on the belt, it's still not going to do a lot, but otherwise it's going to, yeah, you can see those hits what they did. Here comes another and more flooding, and yeah, you can see the flooding compartments, they are getting full of water. And at this point, if this was a max bullhead design, I would stop shooting at it, because it would be really hard to finish it off. I will start working on other ones, and then after those ones are damaged or almost destroyed, I would go back to this one. But has few bullheads, so I'm going to stay shooting at it until it's gone. I mean, 80, is half of it is a flame, has a lot of flooding. Yeah, we only need a few hits to finish it off, and our guns have a 40% individual chance to hit. So yeah, it's not going to take a lot. But in the meantime, we have to keep a look on this guy. The light cruiser is trying to get close. Let's remember this guy has torpedoes. So more flooding. Of course, the problem is now the whole nose is flooded. We can't flood which is flooded. But yeah, that's enough. Extensive fire is going down. So next in line is this light cruiser, and you will see. Look at the list of hits. I mean, yes, we are getting a lot of 12-inch hits at this range. But as ranges come closer, you will notice that most of the hits are going to be the 5-inchers. Secondary guns are currently, I think, a little bit over-modeled in their accuracy. But it is what it is. It's what it is right now in the game, and if they work so well, yeah, you should really count on them. And even in the previous patch, when they were not so accurate, they actually were more than useful enough. So, well, at any rate, you can see that we are truly massacring this guy just with the secondaries. We could actually, if we could, actually in this scenario, switch the main guns to this light cruiser and work this one with the secondaries, but we can't separate batteries like that yet. But it could be an option. I mean, if you really want to. Oh, we haven't hit. Wow. 8-inch penetration. Wow. Really? Well. Yeah, well, he's faring a lot worse than we are. So yeah, no big deal. We are a little bit impaired in our speed because one of the engines seems to have been damaged, but now it's repaired because we are pumping out the flooding. So we have our full speed back. This guy is no long for this world. This is going to be a very quick battle. I'm quite surprised. I mean, we are not even 15 minutes into the battle, and we have almost destroyed the whole enemy warships fleet. So yeah, after that the fleets are just for show. I mean, they are super easy to sink. So yeah, well, this design has worked much better than when I expected. Again, we are going against. Look at this. This guy has maximum bullheads. You are going to see the difference. This guy is actually going to be harder to sink than these battleships, because whatever hits that happen are contained in just one compartment. Meanwhile, with a few bullheads, yeah, it's much easier to spread fires, to spread floodings, and enemies yeah, tend to get destroyed much faster. Okay, yeah. Those are all secondary hits. Look at the list. Insane. And of course, they don't do much individually, but it adds up. I mean, this thing can't stand a very long time under this kind of hailstorm. And if we add the 12-inch guns to that, yeah, much less, right? And we are currently at 17% chance to hit, probably because he's super fast. No, actually it's because target ship size. And because of course he's in smoke. Not really helps. But look at that. Did you see that 12-inch hit? It hit down here. But thanks to the maximum bullheads, it stood in here. So this compartment is going to flood, but it's not spilling to others. So it's going to be much harder to sink this guy than the others. If all the enemy ships have this kind of bullheads, that's when and usually, I mean, you are going to find that kind of enemies in this scenario. In that scenario, what you do is to beat the living crap out of the enemy, like this, pretty much. And if you don't sink it because it has too many bullheads which are too good, at least you destroy its structure so much, you induce a little bit of flooding, so its hit chances go to hell. Look at that, he only has 14% chance to hit, and we are at less than 3 kilometers, I think. Ammo detonation, yeah, well, now he's gone. We are at 3 kilometers, yeah. 14% chance to hit is really nothing. And, wow. I mean, it's almost painful to watch this. So at this stage, if there still were enemies around, enemy warships, I mean, and I was pressed for time, which I'm totally not, I would switch fires, because this guy is a goner for all intents and purposes. Did I get 2 ammo detonations on this guy? Holy crap, what's up with me and ammo detonations in this game? Super lucky. Yeah, but even then, it took far more to it than the first battleship. So yeah, and now is the time for these guys. So now the secondaries are firing at this one, nice, or at this one even, and the main guns are going to fire at this one. First shot is obviously to find the range, so no big deal. This one has already badly hit. Look at that. I mean, secondaries really are truly bothersome weapons for unarmored enemies. Even destroyers have really bad time against them. So yeah, I mean, right now it's just a case of finishing the job because the heavy lifting is done. Look at that. Fire, full of fires. This guy is floating and almost entirely on fire. Yeah, so well, even while you might think that this is a very easy scenario, seems there's some people that seem to have trouble with this. I don't know why. Because oof. It's painful to watch those kinds of hits. It really is. Holy crap. Anyway, yeah, it might seem easy, and it is easy actually if you know your priorities. Of course, this one is turning into much easier than expected, because of what I told you. The enemy had almost no bullheads. I got super lucky with ammo explosions, that as well. But most of all, if not all, is because the enemy had very few bullheads in their warships. So whatever damage I was doing, it was really super out of scale. In most cases, you are going to find enemies with proper numbers of bullheads, standard, mini, or maximum. And in all those cases, yeah, sinking the enemies is a much more problematic issue. And the problem with this is that I think people think that they have to sink every enemy warship in the scenario. No, you only need to kill the transports. So the idea is first you weaken the protecting warships, then you move in and destroy the transports, no matter if you have sunk or not the enemy warships. And with that, the scenario actually wins itself. I mean, you can see that I didn't do any kind of rocket science for this video. I didn't go with any super developed or advanced design. I didn't go with anything creative. Just a solid design of a battlecruiser and wiping up the floor with the enemy. So yeah, had they had a lot of bullheads, well, I would have done what you saw me doing in my previous video. Deal a lot of damage to one until it's no longer really battle worthy, then move on to the next one, then move on to the next one, damage them all so much that they aren't really threats for our ship, and then just move in and go for the kill. Is as easy as that. Yeah, this guy's going down. So next in line, yep. Really? Are you calling a transport Tegethoff? Really? And what would you call a battleship? Oh, come on, AI, give ships a proper name. This was Babenberg, and this was Alk, and this was Pola. Yeah, well, actually, you could say, no, that's an Italian name. No. Pola was in Austro-Hungary until the end of World War I. So, yeah, that's actually a proper Austro-Hungarian name. Yeah, you can see, I mean, secondary guns are completely ruining this guy. They are more accurate. I really have trouble with this. I really do. Secondary guns should never be more accurate than the smaller ones. Even at close ranges. No, I mean, it doesn't work that way. Yeah, well, this guy is, yeah, is a gunner. Let's begin working on this guy. Okay. So yeah, there was also a lot of controversy about secondary guns in the previous iteration of patches, because people say that they weren't hitting enough. And the answer is that secondary guns are not magical. Just not because they are secondaries, they have hull-seeking abilities. I mean, if you know anything about ballistics, you know that in principle, of course, everything else being equal, the heavier cell has better terminal ballistics. An excuse for that because that was my computer and not yours. So heavier guns are inherently more accurate, unless of course something is wrong in their design. So having light guns having higher chances to hit than big guns. I mean, not really. Boom. I mean, I get the idea that people have that secondary guns were some kind of death trap for destroyers, which they kind of were, but too close enough range. Beyond a certain range, they would hit nothing. So, yep, the hit chances got boosted, and I think they went overboard with it. We will see. I mean, the whole thing is in constant evolution because, as you know, this game is in early access. So, yeah, I mean, 23 minutes, less than 23 minutes, and the scenario is over. A little bit, I'm going to admit, is a little bit of an anticlimax because on the test trial I gave this ship, this design. It actually took a lot longer. I actually entered the scenario with 10 minutes to spare. Uh, it was, I think, I was the Chinese. You can see by the name of the ship, Xi'an. But on that one, I was facing German ships, and German ships tend to go with max bullheads a lot. And it took a while to sink them. It was not a problem, but I really have to race against the clock to finish off the transports because, yeah, the enemy warships took a while to get sunk. But again, you don't have to sink the enemy warships. You only have to hit them bad enough to make them a non-threat. And you did see that they really aren't that big of a threat to begin with because they don't have very good fire control systems. They don't have very good chances to hit you if you stay at a range. So first and foremost, hit the warships a little bit to soften them up. If you can sink them, go ahead, sink them. If you can't, once the clock comes down to 20 minutes, just race towards the transports and sink them. And you will win this scenario. And later on, you are free to try whatever other option you want. Try heavy cruisers, light cruisers, different bonuses, and experiment. So, well, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. It wasn't a very long one. So, well, comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you want to see. Very important because if you want to see something in special, I can do that. In the meantime, well, you know the drill. Subscribe, comment, like, etc., etc., etc. I hate to insist on it, but I have to do it. Sorry. Thank you very much for watching, and see you later.